Hello, I'm Anthony Ripley. I have the privilege of developing the Entrepreneurship Co op curriculum for Round Rock ISD. And I wanted to share with you a quick note to help you set up a mindset for teaching this class. There's no better way to talk about it than to introduce you to Anvil. If you haven't seen the documentary Anvil, the story of Anvil, you'd be inspired. It's about a heavy metal band, but don't let that deter you. I don't like heavy metal either, but the film isn't about the music. The band is a living documentary of the indomitable spirit to never give up. So let me tell you just a little bit about Anvil. In the 1980s, there were other rock bands that were soaring to stardom. Well, Anvil's results were kind of mediocre, but they slogged through 26 albums from 1982 till 2022. You'd think that they'd go deaf. And dozens here's the thing that's so cool is that dozens of other rockers, the biggest names in rock and roll, said that they were inspired in the 1980s by Anvil, Def Leppard, Metallica, Megadeth, even Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, Slayer, Anthrax. All of them said Anvil had an impact. And even though Anvil never made it big, you see, Lips, the lead singer of Anvil, he didn't care about fame. For him, it was about the music and serving his fans. So now the crew is in their mid 70s and they're finally retired. For 55 years, they were making and performing heavy metal music. And for them, it was about the art and the difference that they made for their fans. They never made much money, they didn't focus on the money. And it was never about the people that were above them, like the producers, the record label. They focused on their craft and on their fans. I'll tell you, when I'm at my best as a teacher, I'm focused on my craft. I'm focused on my students. My motivation lies in the anticipation that someday I'll make a slight change in the trajectory of my students' path. And I get that opportunity 5 days a week, 36 weeks out of the year. Unlike a heavy metal band, we don't have fans as teachers, but we can curate our lesson plans like a great song, and we can conduct our classroom like an inspired symphony. There's a question that inspires me to give my fullest attention to my students. I ask myself, I wonder whose trajectory will elevate because of my class today, even if it's just by plus one. I wonder who will model my attitudes and behaviors in their future. I'm never going to know this, but this thought gives me the greatest satisfaction, even greater than some of the handwritten notes that I receive at the end of the year. It's in the knowing, the deep seated believing that we're making a difference that returns us to our wonderment as teachers. Well, entrepreneurship class is a little bit different than other classes. Students have an immediate opportunity to practice what they learned by building a business. And sure, they get a grade in my class, but I found that sometimes their focus on their grade can get in the way of their learning. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to share with you a few ideas for our classroom or for your classroom culture. That's going to hopefully help the students like your class more. It's going to help them exert their full effort, and they're going to find greater success as an entrepreneur. But let me just share with you a little bit about me. Let me introduce myself first so you can hear some of my credentials. So I'm Anthony Ripley. I've been teaching entrepreneurship at Stony Point High School. And like I say, I have the honor of putting together this curriculum for Round Rock ISD. In my 20s, I spent 10 years helping over 200 people start franchise businesses. And I started a property investment business myself with my wife. Then, by a turn of heart, I started working for a nonprofit. I expanded a youth program called Young Life for 10 years throughout the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And then I launched Young Life in 2 countries in Southeastern Europe. I started creating an entrepreneurship curriculum in 2016, 2017, so that we could reach more kids in Europe. But in 2018, I had some family concerns and we had to return to the United States. At that time, I was asked by the president of a Nashville-based company to start an international student exchange program. But my real passion has always been at helping students learn entrepreneurship and giving them a mentor. Well, while I was in Franklin, Tennessee, developing this program, I heard that the local school had Incubator EDU and that I could become a mentor. I was just finishing my curriculum and I wanted to see how theirs matched up. And Incubator was probably the biggest competitor that I had of mine that I was developing at the time. Well, Incubator was pretty good, but I got a chance to see its value and also its limitations. And as I volunteered over the course of the year, I could see maybe why some of the students weren't launching their businesses as they had hoped. So even as I was starting and growing my business with Student Exchange, I always dreamed about teaching and mentoring these young entrepreneurs. And this first generation Create Clubs, unfortunately, just like Incubator, had to go on halt as soon as COVID hit, but mine didn't last. Mine didn't stay in the test of time. The money ran out before the end. I moved to Texas in 2020 and began teaching entrepreneurship at Stony Point High School. And the first few years was a fast education for me in pedagogy and the practice of working with students that has really helped the latest iteration of my business called How to Start and Grow Your Business.com. I call it Start and Grow. And it's become excellent today. There's a few things that you need to know about Start and Grow or about teaching an entrepreneurship class in general just to help you succeed. One is that teaching entrepreneurship is different from teaching many academic subjects. I treat my entrepreneurship class like a year-long workshop, and my students develop an expectation that they can develop a successful business. If they feel like if they believe that they can build a business, they're going to bring their passions to the table. If they really believe that this can run, if they can build legs to a business and it can actually work, that they could make $1. Otherwise, they might just think that it's an academic exercise. And many of my students that feel this way just try to pass the class. So there's a coaching element that's involved in teaching entrepreneurship, like coaching a sport, or a lot of times as they're developing a skill in a sport like soccer, there's a lot of trial and error. You get things wrong, you fail before you can get it right. That's the pathway to success. And it's the same thing with teaching entrepreneurship, or should I say coaching entrepreneurship. You have to fail first before you can find product market fit, before you can succeed. And therefore, developing entrepreneurs involves more than head knowledge. It involves skill development and character development. And thus, the teaching of entrepreneurship needs a schedule that can account for creative output and this skill development. It's going to take a little bit more time, especially in the beginning, for them to really find their feet. Currently, my top protege makes about $10,000 per month with his lawn mowing business. This didn't happen because the student understood how to create a value proposition better than anybody else. It's not the head knowledge. It happened because he had room to develop the skills that would lead him to success. You see, skill and character development takes time. And this curriculum measures the lessons and the lesson planning to allow students' skill level to catch up with the course's business knowledge. The best lesson is one that gives students an immediate chance to put their test or to put their knowledge to the test and to help them build their skills. So it's noteworthy to mention that coaching students' mindset is especially important for helping them believe in themselves. A novice teacher might skip the lessons on mindset, which I have numerous lessons at the beginning, which sets their mind to how to be an entrepreneur, how to think like a business person. And they might go directly into the business content. But that could be as detrimental as neglecting classroom expectations at the start of the year. The curriculum has built-in lessons that address students' skill and character development as you coach them through the entrepreneurial process. Finally, it's important to foster a radically collaborative culture in your classroom, which is sometimes difficult when students are used to having individual work and maybe they see education through a competitive lens, trying to get the top rank in class or trying to get a high grade, trying to get the A. See, students can act stingy with their ideas, or maybe they won't support their classmates through problem solving if they feel like it's competitive versus cooperative. And if this is the case, they have little chance of getting their business off the ground. If they have a fear that someone will steal their business ideas or their money, then they'll never take the risks necessary for their business to grow. I hope that you enjoy teaching this class as much as I do. The next step is to learn about the curriculum setup. Happy teaching.